I told you. Let's do Ben Shapiro, and then I'll do Cuba.
Instituting significant layoffs. There was a time when Ben Shapiro could reasonably call himself the king of all conservative media. That's all over now.
Girl, fuck you. Short, it's long.
Yeah, I can't help but notice that the online world has become increasingly intertwined with mainstream politics lately.
You will be, in the not-too-distant future, running for political office. And you have my complete and total endorsement.
Influencers who once had nothing to do with such polarizing issues have since flung themselves headfirst into the most contentious political matters of the day. Whether driven by clout or by ideological purposes, the fact is, more and more influencers are beginning to play a larger role in the events that shape our history.
I want to thank the Nelk Boys, Aiden Ross, Theo Vaughn.
If you had told me 5 years ago that Kyle and Steiny of the Nelk Boys would have had a hand in whitewashing a genocide by granting a war criminal a softball interview on their Happy Dad sponsored podcast, I probably would have had some kind of severe medical episode. I mean, even now it's hard to comprehend that being a real thing that happened.
Burger King. I like Burger King more.
What's your go-to at McDonald's?
No, I'll tell you Burger King. We did the, the double,
Whopper?
the double.
I haven't ripped Burger King in a long time.
Burger King kind of sucks.
Yeah.
No,
the,
you're wrong.
the BK Lounge can hit.
I disagree completely.
You like Burger King over McDonald's?
That's your worst take, I think.
Absolutely.
That's a crazy take.
Damn, such a hard-hitting journalism from the same
That's your
guys who
worst
brought
take.
you Nelk picking up hot girls in Miami and taking a virgin to the club. Because as refreshing as it might sound to have more people engage directly with the governments and policies that shape our existence, I can't help but think we're sort of being led down the road to hell by some of the least qualified grifters to walk the planet.
You openly admitted you never do research or read articles outside of Twitter. How can you shamelessly tell others to read more? I don't need to understand whatever article you want me to read.
This is one of the most goated Asmongold quotes where he's like, I don't need to read, bro. I know everything.
I don't need to read your little special book or your Wikipedia article or anything else besides that. None of that stuff matters.
Yeah, somehow one of the largest political commentators on Twitch, by the way. That's not discouraging or terrifying at all, is it?
Wash hands? Why don't you shut the fuck up? I washed my hands 3 weeks ago. Yeah, I'm fine. What are you talking about wash my hands for?
The idea that an official Twitter account of the US military would be using words like low cortisol and lethality maxing just weeks before launching a regional war in the Middle East is a bone-chilling reality, but it's the one we're living in. Awesome. The political landscape is shifting underneath us as we speak, which can come with serious consequences, especially as online punditry moves further into the extreme.
Women are made to be literally. That's what it is. Women are either mothers, whores, or nuns. No other options.
Last time I was in Korea, I was tired of them pretending they were not Chinese. You're all slanty-eyed. You're all Chinese. Japan, Korea.
You give me the pass.
I give you the pass. He says that shit all the time.
We've talked a lot on this channel about these guys. The loose ensemble of kick streamers and other online provocateurs ushering in a new era of reactionary politics, united not by a single outward ideology, but by a shared desire to build and maintain a personal brand. In their quest to create viral moments that keep themselves at the top of everyone's feeds, they've increasingly resorted to saying and doing more unhinged things. These guys are mostly funded by their audiences, meaning they're far less dependent on advertisers than traditional mainstream personalities, and have little to no
Brian Kilme just called you a champagne socialist on Fox 250. That's amazing. Rather a champagne socialist than champagne fascist like Brian is. Yeah.
I'm Brian Kilme. I'm Brian Kilme. I'm Brian Kilme. I'm Brian Kilme.
Let's get back to Benny
to
Hanna.
temper their rhetoric.
I'm Candace Owens' biological mom, and she is my biological son. and we're gonna get married.
Moreover, the billionaires who keep the lights on at Kick and Rumble are hardly interested in reining in the wild rhetoric so long as it continues to generate traffic. After all, much of their appeal stems from a perceived willingness to speak their minds, a supposedly moral commitment to tell it like it is, which of course only opens the door for more controversial moments, more clicks, more attention, and more money. Rinse and repeat. This less organized, less restrained, and in some cases, less explicitly political band of influencers with their fingers on the pulse of online culture and a younger, more energetic fan base at their disposal has set fire to the old guard of mainstream conservatism. And perhaps no organization better embodies that old guard than the Daily Wire and its most recognizable figure, Ben Shapiro. Since about 2016, Ben Shapiro has been a dominant force in the conservative ecosystem, traveling around the country, owning every woke, blue-haired college liberal that dare challenge his intellect, or bintellect. Does that work? I don't know. In 2017, the New York Times bestowed upon Ben Shapiro the title of provocative gladiator, a conservative wonder kid with grinding mechanical intelligence, as put by The Week in 2018. Gosh, what were people on, man? Ben quickly rose to prominence as a right-wing firebrand during Trump 1.0, before gliding off the right-wing outrage machine most potent during the Biden administration, expanding his reach and making money hand over fist even as recently as 2023, when the Daily Wire finished out that year with a profit of more than $200 million in top-line revenue. For all intents and purposes, Ben Shapiro's media...
You will never convince me that this wasn't base boosted by billionaires, by the way. I will never believe that, okay? I think all conservative media properties are straight up getting money funneled on the revenue side that looks as though it's just like individual subscriptions and donations and whatnot, but it's actually coming straight up from billionaire donations.
Empire was poised for unprecedented growth, but today, those prospects look a little different. One glance at Ben Shapiro's 7 million subscriber YouTube channel will tell you that Ben has seen some better days, some much better days. The Washington Post just reported in May that Ben's views have plunged nearly 70% since the end of 2024, triggering a wave of mass layoffs amidst the inner turmoil. A Daily Wire spokesperson, Brad Bishop, told the Post they had to cut 13% of their employees since the beginning of this year alone, which comes after a previous round of layoffs the company was forced to enact last year, shortly after their co-founder, Jeremy Boring, stepped down as CEO. Now they've even lost the guy who replaced him, meaning the future of the company is now less certain than ever. This also comes as Ben's former friends and allies are running circles around him. He now finds himself outpaced by the likes of Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and even his former acolyte Candace Owens, who continues to siphon views from her one-time employer, making for a particularly personal thorn in the Daily Wire's side. The online conservative ecosystem is changing rapidly, and if Ben can't turn things around soon, he may just become a has-been. You get it? Cause Ben, you get it? I mean, some of these videos have less than 20k views. The man is having to play Fortnite and react to TikToks, for God's sake. He is paying to run full broadcasts of his show as a pre-roll advertisements on other videos, hoping that the viewer just falls asleep and watches the whole thing on accident, I guess? Not sure that's a winning business strategy long term, but you do you, Ben. I've contemplated the video on Ben Shapiro for years at this point. It's not like he hasn't given me a potentially endless trove of content to latch onto and attack, but as Cody Johnston said a few months ago in his video, we're at a point now where this might be the last time Ben Shapiro is even relevant enough to talk about. His predicament is a very real one, and I think it's worth examining how he went from such a rising star to a complete dud in a little under a decade. I think it speaks to the wider conservative movement that in the world of Republican politics, so-called principles aren't gonna get you as far as simply reading the room. Looking through this lens, Ben Shapiro's demise seems all but inevitable, and I hope this video can serve as a cathartic look back on one of the most putrid careers of one of the most repulsive men on the internet. Join me for the unprecedented rise and satisfying fall of Ben Shapiro. But first, I want to talk to you about today's sponsor, NoCD. NoCD is one of my absolute favorite companies to work with because it gives me a chance to talk about something that for too many years I felt I couldn't talk about at all, honestly. And that's been my experience with OCD. I've had it for about as long as I can remember. Even back when I didn't know what it was, I had already become painfully aware of the symptoms and had grown accustomed to feeling trapped by my compulsive behavior.
Ethical reacts. He's talking about his OCD.
It can be hard to describe OCD to someone who's never had to deal with it, but I remember being in 6th grade feeling like I had to obsessively wash my hands over and over again until my anxious feelings went away. I would force myself to think of quote-unquote good thoughts whenever I took a test, or else I had convinced myself that I would fail. I would have to touch every light switch of every room I entered, or else I felt like I would lose someone I cared about. Obviously, there was never any real connection between my anxiety and these rituals. Doing them wasn't going to change the outcome of something, and I knew that, but there was still this part of me that said I had to carry them out in order to feel okay. And sure, giving into them would help for a little bit, until there was another one I had to do, then another one, then another one. It was just a constant in my life for way too long. All these extremely rigid rituals began to consume me. It felt like I was being truly controlled and trapped by my compulsions until I found NoCD. NoCD is the world's leading treatment provider for OCD. All of their licensed therapists to be the main experts in OCD, so they know
Wait, they do ERP?
exactly what to look for and how to help. The lessons and tools my NoCD therapist taught me always ring loud in my ear every time I'm about to give in to a compulsion. They made me feel heard, and I can't tell you how much of a relief it was to actually speak with a trained professional whose job it is to listen to my experiences. It will always benefit you to reach out and get help, and I can tell you personally that NoCD is here for you. Their therapy is 100% virtual and covered by insurance for over 138 million Americans. It also includes support between sessions, so you never have to face OCD alone. To learn more about starting OCD therapy with NoCD, go to nocd.com and book a free call with their team today. That's nocd.com. Huge thanks to NoCD for sponsoring, and now back to Ben. Benjamin Aaron Shapiro was brought into the world at the height of the Reagan era on January 15th, 1984. Growing up with 3 sisters and raised by deep red Reagan Republicans in the predominantly liberal city of Burbank, California, Ben's parents both enjoyed careers.
Literally violinist. Father's a violinist. Ben's a violinist. He is just like, he is a liberal in every way, shape, and form. Except he just chose to be a conservative.
Years in the field of entertainment. His mother being a top executive at a television company, with his father David working as a composer. Meaning that even from a young age, Ben had a healthy exposure to the arts. He was described as a child prodigy by Spectator in 2018, skilled in both violin and piano, which you can judge for yourself by watching his appearance at the Israeli Bonds Banquet in 1996.
Benjamin Shapiro is 12 years old. He will play for us the theme from Schindler's List. Ladies and gentlemen, Benjamin Shapiro.
It's almost kind of sweet to see a young Ben Shapiro so passionate about something that doesn't completely suck and make people's lives worse. You know, if you ignore the glaring fact that this performance was done to benefit a fascist ethno-state, of course. But if we know anything about Ben Shapiro, it's that his love of artistic expression has never once faded, as he's continued to sharpen and refine his musical chops over the years. Kind of makes me wish he had just steered clear of politics altogether and gone the route of a musician. A classical musician, okay? Not whatever the fuck this is.
Let's look at the stats.
But if a streak of creativity ran through Ben, so did a sense of unwavering patriotism. So much so that he had dressed up as John Adams every year for Halloween since the age of 5.
Oh my God. Okay, never mind. I take it back. He was fucking unbearable from the start, dude. And John Adams is dope. I'm just saying that, like, doing that as a 5-year-old, you are a turbo dork. It was already predestined that he was always going to be a fucking dweeb.
Political discussions around the dinner table were far from uncommon in the Shapiro household, as David made sure that Ben, along with his sisters, were sufficiently engaged with the pressing matters of the day. But that doesn't mean Ben Shapiro always wanted to pursue a career in politics. Anyone who's seen his questionable takes on the Barbie movie or One Battle After Another knows that aside from music, Ben has long displayed a passion for film and television.
I like his mug. Did you see his?
It also kind of doesn't make sense. John Adams being your founder, that you're like your preferable founder, does not make sense with his current modern political framework. Because he, like, John Adams, objectively one of the most woke. So, like, how did that happen? Ben hasn't been very good at actually understanding people from history. Yeah, I guess true.
Mug? His mug is funny. Did you see the mug he's carrying there? It says, "Oh, for fox's sake." That is what the mug says.
Which makes sense. Not only do his parents come from Hollywood, but Ben's cousin is actress Mara Wilson, who, as a child,
literally disowned him, by the way, so don't hold that against her. Actively dunks on Ben.
starred in such films as Matilda, Mrs. Doubtfire, Miracle on 34th Street, and perhaps the film that most resonated with me as a child, Thomas and the Magic Railroad. It's peak, honestly. Of course, it's worth noting that Ben and Mara aren't exactly on speaking terms these days, well, with her political convictions being the polar opposite of his. But if you look closely at Ben Shapiro's career, you may just find a thinly veiled desire to follow in the footsteps of so many of his family members. Take, for example, this particularly cringeworthy interview he gave in 2011.
Oh my God. Aubrey's going back to this is one of my favorite interviews where he just like straight up gets dunked on by this lady who's like, well, don't you think your writing is shit and that's why you couldn't make it in Hollywood? Maybe it's not. Maybe it has nothing to do with your conservative views.
While promoting his fourth book, Primetime Propaganda, the true Hollywood story of how the left took over your TV. Wow, very subtle title there, Ben. I wonder what the book could be about. Connie Martinson brings up a time in Ben's life where he had been asked to write a TV series that Ben describes as a mix of comedy and
Ben didn't show up. This is his entire extended family. I'm good friends with his niece and no embarrassing facts about him. Ben didn't show up to his grandma's 100th birthday or her funeral, which I assume shortly followed the 100th birthday, like the way you presented that.
And drama.
Was that a comedy? Was it sitcom?
Chat, you made it seem like you made it seem like it was the same party.
Was it drama?
It was more of a dramedy. It was based on Harvard Law School. It was a dramedy. I've written a couple comedies, kind of hour-long dramedies for, spec script.
And have they been bought?
No, because no, and there are a couple reasons for that.
Okay. So what do you think was the reason, Ben?
One is that it's hard to sell anything in this town.
Yeah, thank you.
Period. Regardless of political viewpoint. And the other is that, and especially a breakout series right from the get-go, right? I mean, it's hard to sell a spec script. You start as a baby writer. I mean, you know the process.
Yeah.
And the one thing above all that Hollywood does right now that is utterly despicable is that they keep people who are not of their political ilk out of the business. Period. End of story.
Ben may not have expected this to be a confrontational interview, but Connie certainly doesn't back down in asserting what we're probably all thinking, that Ben Shapiro and other
I know what I'm thinking. Hollywood is anti-Semitic, and I'm not afraid to say it.
conservatives aren't kept out of the writer's room for being conservative, they're kept out for being unfunny. She even cites her husband, a conservative who found success in Hollywood, as a prime example of this.
I find that a little hard to believe because...
Look at the tape.
Well, I'd like to see the tape, only because my husband, who's a conservative, was a very famous director at a certain point. And I just try to think, being Democrat or Republican or whatever, very rarely came into the conversation.
Well, I mean...
Although I will say we were cleared by the FBI.
They then take a bit of a detour into a wider debate about conservatives advocating against abortion, but then failing to provide child-friendly social services once they've left the womb, a conversation that we are remarkably still having today.
I do know, having talked with some of the ultra-conservative, that they are very concerned, as you said, about anti-abortion, but they don't care about schooling. Where the government would come in, there is definitely no action.
I mean, they seem to be kind of separate issues to me. I mean, you can be for the not killing of fetuses or babies, you know, and also be for.
Oh, back then when he didn't have, back then he didn't have the messaging discipline. He accidentally said fetuses and then corrected himself. Said, I mean babies. Woke. Classic. This is just like when there's like a compilation out there of Ben Shapiro like accidentally correctly misgendering trans women over and over again, only to stop himself and then misgender them deliberately.
Less government intervention in education. We're spending a ton of money on education. Our education has been consistently worse every year for the last 50. So the correlation between government spending and better levels of education is completely misplaced.
Well, I was thinking in terms of the free food lunch for kids who don't have food at home. Anyhow, let's get back to television.
They spar some more over the politics of shows like All in the Family and MASH. Ben suggests that Hollywood was much more moderate in the 50s and 60s, before, in a sinister turn of events, becoming liberal sometime in the 1970s, as if it were some carefully coordinated conspiracy or something, and not just a reflection of where the country was politically at that time. But I think it's fascinating that Ben essentially admits here that he had tried to get a television show off the ground at one point, only to be turned away because, in his words, his politics were too unsavory for Hollywood. Now, what I wouldn't give to actually read any of what he wrote for that TV show that never made it to production, but I think there's ample evidence.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro being an Orthodox Jew who's anti-abortion also makes no sense. He is so Christ-cucked, it's not even funny. Like, buddy, why are you anti-abortion? Why are you so Christ-cucked? This makes no sense. It's not even a part of your religion.
Evidence that conservatives have been able to find work in Hollywood, assuming they're actually good at what they do. I mean, just that year alone, Norm Macdonald was able to launch a new show on Comedy Central. And it's not like Norm had ever been shy about his political leanings. He was just talented regardless, and therefore was able to have a long and fruitful career in entertainment. Even to this day, he is highly regarded by industry leaders across the board, despite being a longtime conservative. I'm just highly skeptical of Ben Shapiro's theory here that conservatives were being turned away in mass on account of their political convictions alone, and that his attempts to break into the industry failed in any way because of his politics. Seems to me like more of a convenient excuse for not being more talented. Yet I refuse to believe otherwise until Ben lets us see those amazing dramedy scripts he wrote. Release the Shapiro cut, Ben. The world needs it. But not everybody disagreed with the central argument of Ben's book. Turns out there were a few key men living around Los Angeles at the time who felt similarly dejected by liberal Hollywood elites. One was a fringe producer by the name of Jeremy Boring, perhaps best known, in the words of Vanity Fair, for helping to produce Etienne, a buddy movie about a dying dwarf hamster. Yeah, I think I speak for everyone when I say we've all seen that one. Would it surprise you to learn that it's now found a home on Tubi? Wait, hang on, the rating is what exactly? After moving out west from a small town in Texas, Boring became friends with star of the TV show Chuck, the titular character in the DC franchise Shazam, and esteemed Fortnite Friday guest Zachary Levi, who he would accompany to the Chuck set during the late 2000s. Boring told Vanity Fair of one on-set exchange that always stuck with him. One day, I'm walking through the stairwell, and a very well-known actress, who was one of the stars of that show, stopped me and said, "Hey, is that your Bush Cheney bumper sticker on that pickup in the parking lot?" I said, "Yeah, yes ma'am." She said, "Kid, you've got balls of steel." Honest truth.
That's a real story that happened. That's a real, dude. God, conservatives and perceived victimhood. Name a better combo, dude. Oh my God. Oh my God. Y'all, we are so persecuted in Hollywood, bro. Oh.
Even until that moment, it was completely lost on me. And just like that, Boring became keenly aware.
Yeah, a well-known actress. And then she fucked me in the car. And then we high-fived after. It's a real story.
of a silent underbelly of the Hollywood machine. Conservatives did exist in LA, they just weren't as vocal as the liberals may have been. He soon joined a networking group called Friends of Abe, described by the New York Times as a collection of perhaps 1,500 right-leaning players in the entertainment industry, which is where he got to know Andrew Breitbart, the bomb-throwing reactionary founder of Breitbart News. Breitbart famously used to say that politics is downstream from culture. It was sort of his guiding principle when honing attacks on the left. Breitbart felt that if conservatives could penetrate the world of
Literally just the opposite of reverse Gramsci.
film, TV, and music, they could then mold political consciousness in their favor. Perhaps it's no surprise then that Breitbart hired a 28-year-old Ben Shapiro to become the outlet's editor-at-large in 2012, just weeks ahead of Andrew Breitbart's sudden death on March 1st of that year. Replaced by Steve Bannon, the continuation of Andrew Breitbart's legacy was already well underway, considering it was him who introduced Jeremy Boring to Ben Shapiro a few years earlier. The two men would go on to start a news site of their own called Truth Revolt in October of 2013, before founding another website in 2015. They called it The Daily Wire. Within just 14 months of bursting onto the scene, Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring, who I
Never forget when Ben Shapiro was working at Breitbart, Breitbart had a black crime tab. As in, whenever a black person did a crime, it would get featured on the Breitbart Black Crime tab. Not crime, black crime specifically. Ben Shapiro later left Breitbart after Steve Bannon hired Milo Yiannopoulos to lean into the Gamergate stuff to make gamers even more reactionary, which inevitably led to the likes of Asmongold. Ben Shapiro left in that period because Milo Yiannopoulos was outed as being an anti-Semite, a neo-Nazi, and Ben Shapiro thought, well, that's a bridge too far, which, ironically enough, is a fun little story about his career as well. Ben Shapiro has always been Mr. Anti-woke, anti-DEI, except for people who are pro-Israel. And I don't even mean Jews, even though he does care about anti-Semitism, clearly, regardless of the fact that he doesn't care about any other form of bigotry and is a champion of all different sorts of bigotry. He clearly found Breitbart's anti-Semitism to be a bridge too far at the time.
Should mention like to call himself the God King of the website, in case you felt like cringing out of your skin today.
Do you remember when there were two genders and only 1.5 of them had to shave their mustaches?
We're able to boast that the Daily Wire had become cash flow positive nearly a full year ahead of schedule. They like to brag that they didn't need any outside financial backers to do it, but that's probably,
I guess, after Ben left and they brought the black crime tab back,
because their venture had always been propped up by billionaire fracking tycoon Ferris Wilks, a noted Christian nationalist who fueled the Daily Wire's launch to the tune of $4.7 million as a part of him and his brother Dan's broader mission to, as reported by Ava Kaufman, not just slash regulations and taxes for the wealthy, but to steer the government toward Christian rule, seeking to eliminate the distinction between church and state. While calling itself a truly self-funding business on its website, the Daily Wire addressed its oil baron ties by desperately arguing that, as of July 2020, neither Shapiro nor Boring have ever met with Dan Wilkes or received any money from Wilkes Brothers LLC, which doesn't stop the site's detractors from braying about how the company is bought and paid for by the evil fracking Wilkes Brothers. Wilkes Brothers sounding, we guess, like Koch brothers, and thus more nefarious to leftist media outlets. Ooh, well, at least you guys clearly aren't mad about it. Glad you don't let the criticism get to you. Clearly, if it's the longest paragraph of your entire about page. Also, how can you blame anybody for braying when you are quite literally bought and paid for by at least one Wilkes brother? I mean, it's just the truth. The least you could do is own it. But what exactly did they do with that generous donation, you ask? Well, at the same time they were pumping out article after article on their website, some of their 2015 headlines included such gems as Congressional Democrat, 1 in 5 Muslims willing to start jihad for caliphate. Democrats love cursing. Here are the top 5 leftist potty mouths. And 2 reasons you shouldn't go back in time and kill baby Hitler by Ben Shapiro? Ben, You're Jewish! The Daily Wire also developed a presence on YouTube and Facebook during this time. In fact, if you go to their channel right now and sort by oldest, you'll find a 10-year-old video of Ben Shapiro chastising then GOP primary candidate Donald Trump as a liar.
So, is Trump
Many people forget, but Charlie Kirk was also anti-Trump. He was first to jump on the Trump train, but he was also, of course, as is the case with Ben Shapiro and every other one of these operatives, vehemently anti-Trump. I believe they both liked Ted Cruz more than Trump. I mean, J.D. Vance was anti-Trump later in the game. I'm just saying, Candace Owens was anti-Trump. Candace Owens was pro-Obama, which is crazy. At least the other ones were like conservative still. They just didn't like Trump.
a big winner? Or is he a spoiled brat who grew up in the lap of luxury, had his daddy sign his checks, and then bragged about how he is a huge winner? Trump's three biggest crowds are evangelicals, conservatives, and he's a winner voters. Trump is lying to all of them.
Which might be wild to see today, but back in 2015, when there were still seemingly plenty of viable contenders for the Republican nomination, Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire were actually fairly critical of the man, who would later go on to win the presidency twice and reshape the Republican Party in his image, attacking Trump on moral grounds in between other videos that were still very much geared toward a conservative audience. If you couldn't already tell from titles like Democrat America, thugs, rapists, and child molesters, Hollywood wants to molest your kids, and Captain America is gay and a Nazi. Yeah, this is apparently the kind of content that $4.7 million will get you.
This guy, by the way, is considered a leading Trump ally, Alex Jones. I don't know why! I can't understand it! Look at this! Look what's underneath here! It's another shirt! Why? Why? Because I don't want to go to the cleaners that often, that's why. Come on. Okay.
It was clear from the beginning that the Daily Wire sought to provide content to dejected Republican voters who, sure, hated liberals and Muslims as much as the next reactionary freak, but were still skeptical of the GOP's frontrunner. Of course, that audience proved to be a shrinking one, as Donald Trump smashed caucus after caucus, picking up scores of delegates and solidifying himself as the man to face off against the dreaded Hillary Rodham Clinton that November.
I'm just chilling.
Grappling with a Trump presidency on election night, Shapiro and Boring may very well have positioned the Daily Wire to go belly up, if it weren't for a new niche they were early to tap into. It's not that they were simply pro-Trump, but they also definitely weren't anti-Trump either, as Ben Shapiro was about to learn the value of becoming anti-Trump in 2017.
Donald J. Trump is now President of the United States.
Darth Vader, no, from this lady.
Okay, well, that was forced as no way was that a genuine laugh, Ben. Come on. I know it may feel like another lifetime ago, but Donald Trump's first term in office provided plenty of material for mainstream liberals intent on demonstrating their hashtag resistance to a president who they, quite correctly, identified early on as a fascist warmonger hell-bent on ushering in the American century of humiliation. I mean, I think we can say now they were pretty fucking vindicated. You had the women's marches immediately after the inauguration, a day without immigrants on February 17th, pink pussy hats were flying off the shelves, though obviously not all of America was on board, since they did go on to elect him again just 8 excruciating years later, and there were figures in the media ready to capitalize on those who looked at the resistance movement and said, huh? Ben Shapiro understood quite well that while some Americans had voted for Trump, plenty of others had voted against Hillary. They may not have particularly cared for Donald Trump the man, but they certainly hated what Hillary Clinton represented. And unfortunately, those early years also provided plenty of material for red-pilled servants of the billionaire class to traffic in their cancerous ideology through the means of smearing the left as a bunch of hysterical crybabies that were simply too immature or uneducated to understand such foundational concepts as facts and logic.
People were wearing what they were calling pussy hats, like pussy cats, but hats, okay? And these were supposed to protest Donald Trump because Donald Trump is such a sexist. If you want to drive Americans out of your camp, a quick way to do it is just keep saying things like pussy hats over and over and over, and then talking about female anatomy. A lot of these signs are super obscene. There are a lot of kids who showed up to this thing, and there are a lot of really obscene signs.
The name of the game was to hammer the left on their supposed weirdness to get as many non-political people in the door as possible. I mean, this video alone got close to 1 million views, and that was before the world had really learned who Ben Shapiro was. As liberals were pushing back against Trump, Ben was pushing back against them, laying a new foundation from which right-wing figureheads would go on to launch their attacks. A classic strategy in the world of politics is to paint the other side in the most unfavorable light imaginable. If you can show an example of one leftist being crazy, you can smear the entire left as crazy, thus drawing a distinction between them and you as the reasonable, level-headed adults in the room, especially in the eyes of normies. A cursory glance at Ben's overall channel will show you that his most popular videos don't even have Trump's name in the title. What really got him the views were his reactions to woke SJWs, his attempts to debunk woke ideology, and of course, the debates. The many debates of Ben Shapiro. I think there could easily be an entire video devoted to Ben Shapiro's disingenuous debate tactics, but that's not really what we're here to do today. Ben's debates haven't been relevant for a hot minute anyway.
Did you fall? Wait, what do you mean? Why did you scream? It was in the video, wasn't it? There was a scream in the video and you guys thought it was me? No, I was washing my hands after I fucking put my dishes away. Heard you take a tumble? You guys are so stupid.
But if you've watched any of it yourself, you'll quickly notice a pattern. The overwhelming majority of these smackdowns took place on college campuses, meaning this Harvard-educated, heavily politically engaged debate lord was facing off against well-intentioned college students who, unfortunately, were a little too underprepared to deal with such a weathered professional. Now, does that fact alone make Ben's positions correct? Obviously not, no. The point of these debates wasn't to be right. The point was to humiliate the opponent at all costs. You certainly don't really need to change your opponent's mind. You don't even have to be civil. This is YouTube. Whatever it takes to go viral. Short, clippable moments will always be more valuable than fully fleshed out ideas and arguments.
Okay, but you're still saying these kids should like not be accepted because they don't really fit in either place? They can't just like...
I'm saying that the Boy Scouts have a standard. You must be a biological boy to be a Boy Scout. You have to be a boy.
Fucking God! Let's go! Sorry. I got excited. When I see my goat thriving, you know what I mean? When I see my motherfucking goat thriving, it's hard. It's hard for me not to get excited, you know?
To be a Boy Scout.
Where's that written though? Okay.
In the name Boy Scouts.
Ben knew his role, and that role was to refurbish the old, dusty, conservative talking points that had been thrown around.
Dude, that was fucking so sick, dude. You fucking own that libtard, dude. God, oh my God, one day I want to do an epic ownage compilation like my goat Ben. Oh God, fucking destroyed with facts and logic. You want to know why Ben Shapiro's career fell off? Not just because of Israel. Israel was the fucking final straw that broke the camel's back. You want to know why his career fell off? Because straight up, everyone on his side was just like, wait a minute, why the fuck do we care about facts and logic? No, the fuck we don't. Actually, no, my feelings matter far more than facts. Facts are woke. Facts are gay. Facts are libtarded. That's what happened. Everyone straight up was like, why are we listening to this fucking nerd? I don't want to debate. I don't want to debate libtards. I want to call them pedophiles instead. The appetite for facts and epic ownage and wanting to feel smart about destroying your interlocutors in the marketplace of ideas fell by the wayside. And it makes sense. It was living on borrowed time anyway, because Ben Shapiro never actually demonstrated facts. Unfortunately, I know this is a cliche, and I will repeat it, but truth does have a little bit of a bias on the liberal side, okay? For all of liberals' faults and failures, for the many different things I yell at them about, they are by and large on the right side when it comes to, I don't know, empirical evidence, or at least they will generate the empirical evidence necessary. Republicans don't care. Republicans don't care about that shit. They think facts are woke and gay. That's what they did during COVID. During COVID, they were just like, oh, dude, all manner of science is bad and wrong, and dare I say immoral, potentially satanic. I don't care about it because it hurts my brain to think.
Around for decades, formerly weaponized by mainstream figures who were a little too ideological and old for the type of audience that Ben was going for. Ben Shapiro was Rush Limbaugh and Glenn Beck for a generation that had never heard those names before. He could connect with the youth in ways that were never possible for Fox News blowhards like Sean Hannity, who were preaching primarily to the old folks home. Yet Ben was still railing against the exact same issues that conservatives of the past had always been obsessed with. Feminism, transgenderism, Islam. He once famously tweeted that Israelis like to build, Arabs like to bomb crap and live in open sewage. Hashtag settlements rock. He's advocated for the privatization of Social Security, the complete criminalization of abortion and gay marriage, and of course, fewer taxes on billionaires. Broadcasting himself across all the major social media platforms, Ben Shapiro quickly embraced the role of the new, fast-talking millennial who could demonstrate to the Republican old guard that actually young people could be quite receptive to this stuff if it were packaged the right way. At least that's what the old guard seemed to take away from his rapid success, and the success was undeniable. The New York Times reported that by November 2017, Ben's podcast was being downloaded 10 million times each month, with a staggering 70% of his audience being under the age of 40. One compilation of his debates, uploaded in September 2017, is currently sitting at over 17 million views. By January 2018, Slate found—
God, he really fucking banged back in the day. What the hell were people on, man? What the fuck? Yeah, generational L for Faillennials is right, dude. It is kind of crazy that motherfuckers were like, I can't get enough of this fucking loser. Basically making a nerdier and I guess somewhat more convincing case for the exact same shit that Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Jesse Waters, Tucker Carlson, and all these other motherfuckers were saying. I was one of those young boys watching this shit. I know many of you were. Many of you have come up to me in public, unashamed, which, you know, it's fine. We all went through different phases. Like, I get it. But many of you have told me this. You were literally on this pipeline. It's kind of crazy, dude. Imagine if you didn't encounter my content, become a member of this community, maybe join DSA, maybe become like a labor union organizer or whatever, as many of you have done. You could right now be sitting at home watching a Hasman Gold compilation being like, oh my God, these fucking Foids. Oh, Asman, you're so based. That's where you would be at right now. You would be on that timing right now. That is what time it would be for you. Think about how fucking terrifying that is. No friends, stuck in this dark pit of despair and sadness, constantly fucking thinking like, oh, dude, thank God USAID was cut. Thank God the USAID funding was cut. Now titties in video games any day now. Like that's the type of shit you would be thinking and saying.
Found that Shapiro had more Facebook engagements in December than any other conservative site or personality except for Fox News and Breitbart. He was outpacing the Daily Caller by 2.5 times and received 6 times more engagement than Sean Hannity, 11.5 times.
I was an edgy centrist, bro. Then I watched a clip of you with the new Taliban who were slay queening and girl boss doing girl boss shit, and now I am now a jacked and leftist as fuck. Lamau, the rest is history. It is pretty crazy to think that like the Boo Boo Bennett video might have straight up saved the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. It's the one that a lot of people point to, but it is always funny to think like, what was the one clip that you saw of me that clicked? But I guess also at the same time, there's the opposite of it, because there's an entire industry dedicated to making sure that the first clip you see of me is horrible.
More than Laura Ingraham. By that time, his Facebook page alone was sitting at 3.5 million followers. Jeremy Boring told Vanity Fair at the end of 2018 that the Daily Wire was bringing in a total of 140 million page views a month, had 60 full-time employees on the payroll, and sure enough, they were able to bring on even more on-screen personalities in due time. By now, I have no doubt you know them, and I'm sure you love them. In 2017, the Daily Wire officially brought on Michael Knowles, a graduate of Yale and also a failed actor whose illustrious list of roles included a gay twink who has gay sex.
That's true. That's Michael.
Sex with another gay man.
that just happened.
Dog, you didn't have to wear that. That's not a Speedo. That's a thong. I debated this man on COVID lockdowns.
The only reason I bring that up is because Michael Knowles, if you didn't know, is a raging homophobe who's declared that same-sex couples are unfit to have children, that their families are pretend, and has compared surrogacy to purchasing a luxury item, stating that even if they go to the baby store and purchase the eggs from one woman and rent the womb of another woman and create a child as though the child were a handbag to be purchased at Ferragamo or something, they're not fit to raise a child. He's argued that women understood the world a lot better before feminism, has decried anti-white racism, and has advocated for the eradication of transgenderism from public life entirely. So, you know, perfect candidate for the cool kids philosopher to take under his wing. 2017 was also the year that Matt Walsh joined the Daily Wire as a columnist.
I started watching when Trump got COVID and you were openly celebrating it while CNN was praying for his safety. I would never do that. Why would you say that? Why would you say such things?
Being upgraded to podcast host the following year. Walsh is a man with a similar resume, though instead of acting, his past...
I learned about you from Kayagate. Wait, really? What the fuck? That's the craziest. That's like, yeah, this guy fucking abuses his dog. I gotta check this guy out. I love dog abuse. What the fuck? This is yup, my boyfriend said it was right-wing shit, lol. I was an Andrew Tate fan watching you debate him, became your fan. Oh, nice.
Consists of sitting on the side of the road and rambling to himself about the differences of consensual and non-consensual sex. No, I'm not kidding.
There are non-consensual sex.
Wait, so Kayagate actually caused me to get... There are hella people that are saying Kayagate. What? What was your thing? Last guy who did these owners compilations at college campuses died while arguing the racially motivated false statement about gun violence. I told a friend that America deserved 9/11 and he said, have you heard of Twitch? That's what you said. I broke from watching Brian Tyler Cohen, all the same scripts he used for his videos. Man's got hella catchphrases. Kayagate was only 4 months ago. Kayagate was October 7, 2025.
Which is bad. And then we have consensual sex, which we think is always good. That's what the culture says. That's what a lot of us have, most of us, it seems like that's the idea that we have. It's like, as long as they're consenting adults who choose to do this thing, then it must be okay. But the reality is, that there's a lot of bad sex. There's a lot of immoral sex. There's a lot of disordered, gross, harmful sex that is nonetheless consensual. And in the Catholic Church, you have...
Wait, he's mad about... Wait, I remembered this car rant because I think this is where he advocates to fuck minors. Okay? I'm almost certain that this is the car rant where he talks about like fucking 16-year-olds. What I did not remember is him also railing against consensual sex that's immoral.
You have some cases where, like cases involving Cardinal McCarrick. You hear about Cardinal McCarrick and the controversy surrounding him. Now, there are accusations that he molested children. So, you know, that's in that category. But then a lot of the accusations you hear about McCarrick and also with other, you know, some of these other things as well. These are, in some cases, he's having sex with seminarians. These are grown men who he allegedly lured into bed and then had sex with. But as a grown man, if you let another man lure you into bed, does that belong in the same category as the 12-year-old kids?
Would you believe me if I said this was also the same guy who defended teen pregnancy so long as the teen is married and that girls are technically, quote, most fertile at 17?
Teen pregnancy is a new problem.
Yes.
In the sense that it's only recently that we decided that it is a problem. Even biologically, and this is me just stating, right now I'm gonna start by just stating facts. Girls between the ages of like 17 and 24 is when they're technically most fertile.
Yeah.
Okay? That's biological. That's a fact, all right? I'm just stating facts. That's all I'm doing. So what I'm saying is that the problem is not per se teenage pregnancy, it's unwed pregnancy. That's the problem in society.
Believe me, when I went to the University of Maryland, I was a little bit older than everybody. It was like you get there and you see these like innocent girls, and by the end of the year, it's just like the stories you've heard about them. It's like this internal need to breed, and it just comes out at the at the wrong time.
Internal need to breed. Awesome. Another great hire there, Ben. Love the fact that Matt Walsh has sold literal plush toys of himself as a baby, by the way. Not at all strange or off-putting in the slightest. Nothing but the best at the Daily Wire, whose rotating cast of characters not only included a girl named Brett Cooper, who is essentially the gender-swapped version of Ben Shapiro, and Candace Owens, who was officially brought on board in 2020 despite a bit of a controversial past of her own, one that includes Hitler apologia, as she stated in 2018 that if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is he had dreams outside of Germany, which I think only slightly undercut some of the things he was doing.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro heard that and was like, that's my gal. Ben Shapiro heard that and was like, is she pro-Israel? And Candace was like, of course I'm pro-Israel. And Ben was like, you're hired.
Inside of Germany? But apparently Ben Shapiro saw that and said, we need her. Ultimately, Ben Shapiro was building a behemoth. Towards the end of Trump 1.0, the Daily Wire had been transformed into an influencer-driven juggernaut, hell-bent on waging the culture war on as many fronts as possible. Shapiro, Owens, Walsh, and Knowles were each raking in millions of views on their own respective broadcasts, and because of the constant cross-promotion that was going on, you could almost describe the Daily Wire as its own unique form of content house. Sure, they weren't living in a mansion together like Team 10, or making their money from OnlyFans like the MILF.
What do you think gets Ben Shapiro braked up? Thinking about the Greater Israel Project. That's it. Nothing else. Definitely not his wife. We know that.
House, but they were virtually inseparable for a time.
Hasan, are you streaming on July 4th because you hate America? I love America.
Because there was one glaring issue with the way the company had been organized. If one of the on-screen talents got big enough and decided they no longer needed the Daily Wire for support, they could simply walk away at any time and take their audience with them. A harrowing prospect that Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring would have been wise to take into account. But that wasn't exactly what they were concerned with at the time. After all, they had much more pressing matters to attend to in the era of Biden. With Donald Trump officially out of the White House, Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring found themselves in a more advantageous position than ever. For 4 years, Ben was, more or less, having to put up a front to defend a president who he had always despised on a moral level. Now, the president was a Democrat, an old senile one that he could openly and viciously trash without having to worry about even the slightest pushback from his audience. In fact, it's what they expected him to do. And of course, Ben wasn't about to let them down.
Not a good look there, Joe. Not a great look at all. He's completely asleep. So, this guy is a fail. He is a giant fail.
And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
What the f?
This guy is a giant fail. Oh my God. Give him $4 million right now. Give him $10 million.
That's a great meme. Did you know that every single like creates one additional leftist tier?
I just don't understand like what people, I mean, I guess like this is the content equivalent of doing like anti-woke razors. You know what I mean? Where it's just like a more dog shit version of something you could get that's readily available, but this time it's got, you know, you're also doing it political style. Like there's also a political movement that you're a part of. Like who the fuck will be like, oh my God, I can't wait to watch this guy go epic fail on another Joe Biden compilation.
That is just science. What's going on with this guy?
Trust me, the hogs were eating good. It's not like Joe Biden didn't give him any material to work with.
When it came spring, it came the fall, this is the God's truth. And you get in the car and there's a little frost on the window, turn on the windshield wiper, there'd be an oil slick. Not a joke. I have asthma, and 80% of the people who, in fact, we grew up with have asthma. That's what you call a fence line community.
This is the kind of person who's president of the United States.
In January of 2022, Boring announced that the Daily Wire's 12-month revenue had hit $100 million for the first time ever, up roughly 65% from 2020. Having just moved their headquarters from Los Angeles to Nashville, Tennessee, the company was prepared.
My favorite Ben Shapiro tweet about you at all time. Rare W in the Ben Shapiro Book of Takes. As a gay man, I have been reliably informed that in order to truly be in a slut era, Hasan the Hun must show hog. That's real. He did say that back in May 4th, 2022. Where did you find this? This has got to be your own tweet, I assume.
To put their massive war chest to good use by introducing a wave of new and expensive projects. And I'm not just talking about overproduced commercials for anti-woke razor blades and pronoun chocolate. I'm not really sure actually, and I don't care. In June, they announced the Daily Wire Plus, an obvious spin-off of Disney Plus, though Disney Plus never offered commentary from a doddering old transphobe who has beef with Elmo for some reason. So if that's your thing, I guess it could be worth the $7 to $21 they make you cough up. I don't know. They also announced another paid streaming platform called Bent Key that featured content exclusively for kids and sought to answer the age-old question of what if Bluey were a homeschooled chinchilla voiced by washed-up reactionary comedian Rob Schneider. Yeah, nothing screams family values like that guy. Full disclosure, I haven't tried watching Chip Chilla yet and probably never will, but everything I've read about it indicates it was a pretty standard children's show with an emphasis
L for you, because it's great lessons to be learned there.
On respecting your parents and loving your country, I guess. Apparently Boring didn't want to make this one as explicitly political, though he did explain that the point was to push back against what he saw as the worst excesses of the woke left. Okay. Kids go to school for 40 hours a week, and then they engage in pop culture for 40 more hours every week. That means for 80 hours of a child's week, you are turning them over to the left. Oh no, the exposure to new ideas and differing perspectives, God, anything but that. A good parent might spend 15 minutes a day in meaningful conversation with their kids. A great parent might take their kid to church for 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours a week. The other 80, they're watching Disney. They're online. They're in public schools. Oh my God, the horror. I would never allow my kids to endure the satanic dogma espoused by Disney Channel and
oh yeah, my famous Ben Shapiro ratio. Masculinity and femininity exist. Outward indicators of masculinity and femininity exist in nearly every human culture. Boys are taught to be more masculine in virtually every human culture because of the role of men is not always the same as the role of women. To which I responded with, Ben, you're 5'3", can't grow facial hair, and weigh 100 pounds soaking wet. If we can both be considered men, you should probably be a bit more open-minded about gender expressions. It's clearly not as rigid a binary as you try to imply it is. 118,000 likes. This was back in the day. This is pre-Elon purchase Twitter. So you look at the fucking replies and it's like all real human beings. I'm almost certain this caused Ben Shapiro to grow a beard, by the way.
Public school teachers. Do conservatives ever get tired of being scared of literally everything? But not all the new Daily Wire projects kept their politics ambiguous. They also released a number of films, including, but tragically not limited to, the brazenly transphobic Lady Ballers, which was about a group of men getting into women's basketball by claiming they were transgender. Jeremy Boring, who has always wanted to be taken seriously as an actor, in the same way Ben Shapiro has always wanted to be taken seriously as a screenwriter, played the main character himself, and features cameos from the nation's most universally revered lawmakers.
Excuse me, are these seats open? Never mind.
Don't you have a fucking job to do? Though perhaps one of their most successful ventures to date is Matt Walsh's equally transphobic documentary, What is a Woman? Or as I like to call it, the final boss of coworker movies. The goal was to showcase the supposed absurdity of gender ideology, but at least 3 people who appeared in the film say they were tricked into being a part of it, and that the producers had misrepresented how it would portray transgender topics. Apparently they had promised doctors and advocates that the documentary would explore the challenges the transgender and LGBTQIA face in today's culture, as well as advancements in transgender care and gender affirmation surgery. Obviously, the film wound up doing the exact opposite. As NBC's Preston Ganaway pointed out, nowhere in the film did Walsh even use the phrase transgender care, instead opting for terms like chemical castration. Since they hadn't heard of Matt Walsh or the Daily Wire before, these interviewees had assumed the filmmakers had more honest, pure intentions, and were surprised to learn their words had been weaponized to further a political agenda they didn't agree with. What I didn't know until researching this video was that the Daily Wire had also established a conservative book publishing imprint in 2021 that helped publish propaganda, books, just, normal books, written by the usual suspects. Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, canceled Mandalorian star Gina Carano, but also also one of the pigs involved in the fatal shooting of Breonna Taylor. Yeah, I know. After Simon & Schuster refused to publish Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly's book on the assassination, the Daily Wire swooped in and saved the day. Isn't that nice?
The fuck would you read from this guy? Like, what, this is so insane.
Simon & Schuster was too afraid to tell Mattingly's story, but we're not, they told the Associated Press. And it's true, they weren't afraid to tell that story, but no matter how outrageous and provocative they got, there were always issues that the mainstream conservative brain trust at the Daily Wire refused to touch, which created a bit of a problem for Ben. A problem summed up by Ryan Broderick, who wrote, "The age-old problem with working at the racism factory, they eventually make a new racism that includes you."
No way! I'm here with Andy No. Welcome back to Slightly Offensive. Here he is. T-pose on you. Ben Shapiro. T-pose on you. Are you going to walk across and greet him? Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know if he'll greet me. Are we going to go over? Let's go over. All right. This can't be in the middle of the street, though. Ben! It's great to see you. Why did you give a 45-minute speech about me at Stanford, and you won't even look at me? Hey, he's with his kids. Come on, I'm right here. Hey, let him cross. I know you're with your family, but I can't get anywhere else.
I shouldn't have to spell out for you why Ben Shapiro, one of the right's most prominent Jewish commentators, and Nicholas J. Fuentes, an ardent neo-Nazi Holocaust denier, would hate each other. They've been trading blows for almost a decade.
Fuentes sounds like old Shapiro, same tone. Nick Fuentes also says the same shit that Ben Shapiro says, including going back on a lot of his open farming of anti-Zionists for the last two and a half years, and now saying that, like, actually Muslims do deserve to be slaughtered. They all hate us. He even openly admitted that he was farming the Muslim audience to the best of his ability. I'm not so certain he even hates Israel all that much. He just hates Jews. I think that's it. Like, he would probably be fine with a world where they all just went to Israel. Like, that's kind of his unprincipled stance on this issue.
Now, with Fuentes telling Tucker Carlson about their first interaction all the way back in 2017.
I said, how is it anti-Semitic to just be consistent on our U.S. foreign policy? I tweeted to Ben Shapiro. I said, you know, I've never seen anything on the Daily Wire that's actually critical of Israel. And he quote tweets me. And at this time, I have 1,000 followers on Twitter.
How old are you?
I'm 18. I don't know. I probably got 100 likes on this tweet. It wasn't a viral tweet. He quote tweets me and says, to accuse a Jew of dual loyalty is the surest sign of anti-Semitism.
He immediately called you an anti-Semite.
I was like, what is this? Like, why is this guy attacking me? You know, because I don't have a platform at this time. I'm not an influential guy or anything. I was surprised at why he cared.
Yeah.
How does he even know who I am or what I'm about? And it turned out that Cassie Dillon, she had texted him earlier and she wanted him to take me under his wing. Oh, you really like this guy. He's amazing. He did this great debate. She goes, but he's a little too pro-Trump. And he goes, I'll take a look. And so they started paying attention to me, and the more critical of Israel I was, I started to get this really intense pushback from the both of them and from a lot of the people at Daily Wire.
Now, don't misconstrue Nick's position here.
So Ben Shapiro made Nick Fuentes. Dog, David Horowitz and Ben Shapiro are responsible for like 90% of the top anti-Semites in the country. David Horowitz, who died. Both are conservative Jews who were unbelievably racist. At least David Horowitz had a evolution from being a Trotsky defender to neocon, which is, classic pipeline, whatever. Ben never had that. But yeah, David Horowitz and Ben Shapiro are literally directly responsible for Candace Owens. David Horowitz plucked her and groomed her into being this like conservative behemoth. Nick Fuentes openly admits in this video, in this interview, that he learned about the Great Replacement conspiracy from Mark Levin.
His criticism of Israel does not mean in any way that he's a friend of the Palestinian movement, or any non-white group for that matter. Anyone with even a basic understanding of who he is should know immediately that Nick's opposition to Israel has nothing to do with a selfless, progressive dedication to human rights, and has pretty much everything to do with a burning hatred for Jewish people. He's never exactly been one to hide his appreciation of Adolf Hitler and his questioning of how many Jews were really killed in the the Holocaust with his painfully unsubtle and nauseating comparison to cookies baking in an oven.
Max says, if I take 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies and Cookie Monster has 15 ovens working 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years, how long does it take Cookie Monster to make 6 million batches of cookies? I don't know. That's a good question. It doesn't really sound correct to me. Wait a second. It takes 1
Edgy boy, so edgy.
hour to cook a batch of cookies, and you have 15 ovens, probably in 4 different kitchens, right? Doing 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years. How long would it take you to make 6 million? I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be 5 years, right? The math doesn't seem to add up there.
This is beside the point, but I watched this clip play on Rumble next to an ad for 30% off ivermectin. So anyway, the fact remains that Ben Shapiro is and has always been, since the dawn of his career as a columnist at Breitbart, a raging Zionist, a defender of fascism who will back Israel and all of their violent, depraved, and sick behavior to the hilt without even a second thought. We already saw his tweet from over a decade ago, lauding illegal settlements in Palestine and slamming Arabs for bombing crap and living in open sewage. His opinions have hardly changed since then, and all you have to do is take one look at his coverage in the days and weeks following October 7th, 2023.
And Tucker, by the way, then continued along these lines. He did an interview with Vivek Ramaswamy, and he likened what just happened in Israel, the kidnapping of women and their rape. He compared that to drug overdose deaths in the United States. People who are addicted to fentanyl, sticking needles in their arms and overdosing is a moral blight. It is a moral atrocity and a moral evil for people to kidnap women, rape them, and drag them back to the Gaza border. Those are not the same thing. And Tucker knows that. But this is a cheap way of telling you not to look. Nobody is calling for America to go to war with Iran. The entire purpose of having an aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean is to avoid that. Of course we should care about what happens with fentanyl. Of course we should care about, we should close our border. Have I been unclear about this? Of course America should have closed borders when it comes to this sort of stuff. I'm on the same side as Tucker on that. I just don't understand why he's not on my side when it comes to Hamas has to be wiped off the face of the earth.
The rift between Shapiro and Fuentes reflected a much deeper divide taking place on the right as Israel responded to the Hamas attacks of October 7th by waging an all-out assault on the 2.2 million men, women, and children then living in the Gaza Strip, cutting off food, water, and electricity to the inhabitants and bombarding countless residential areas with attacks that persist to this day in what just about every international body considers a genocide. Benjamin Netanyahu and other members of the regime are officially wanted by the International Criminal Court of Justice for war crimes, yet they continue to be protected by the United States, first under Joe Biden and now Donald Trump. The horrifying images of Israel's siege being plastered across everyone's screens in the intervening 2.5 years have hardly improved the country's standing in the West, so it shouldn't be much of a surprise that about 60% of all adults in America now have an unfavorable view of Israel. Pew Research found in April 2026 that 80% of Democrats and Democrat-leaning voters have an unfavorable view of Israel, and although only 41% of Republicans currently hold an unfavorable view of the apartheid state, that's still a very significant chunk of the base, one that didn't exist prior to October 7th, and one that Nicholas J. Fuentes is in a better position to take advantage of than our friend Benjamin Shapiro, who considers even the slightest criticism of Israel to be flatly anti-Semitic, no questions asked. If you in any way disapprove of Benjamin Netanyahu's open bloodthirst and warmongering, then you obviously hate Jews. Never mind the fact that some of the most anti-Israel groups in America are comprised of Jewish Americans who simply don't want to see another genocide be carried out in their name. Mr. Shapiro will hear none of it. But thanks to the power of hindsight, we can safely say that coming to the defense of a genocidal ethno-state is hardly a hill worth dying on, both from a moral perspective, obviously, but in the case of Ben Shapiro, a business one too, because not only was the divide ripping apart the Republican Party, it was also ripping apart his own company. On the morning of March 22nd, 2024, Candace Owens shocked the world with a tweet that read, "The rumors are true, I am finally free." She had officially parted ways with the Daily Wire and was already promoting her own site, which promised premium content that exposes truth, shatters assumptions, and breaks boundaries. She presented the news in a way that made it seem like the Daily Wire, aka Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring, had been holding her back from speaking truth truth to power or something. But really, for anyone paying attention, this revelation hadn't come out of nowhere. She had been taking not so subtle shots at her bosses as early as November 2023, when she tweeted that no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. To which Shapiro responded with, Candace, if you feel that taking money from the Daily Wire somehow comes
God, he is such a whiny little bitch.
between you and God, by all means,
Trump
quit.
live in 10
Candace
minutes.
fired back.
When mom finds the poop sock, oh my God. Let me click on that real quick. Just kidding. Here's a 5-minute timeout, bitch.
You have been acting unprofessional and emotionally unhinged for weeks now, and we have all had to sit back and allow it, and have all tried to exercise exceeding understanding for your raw emotion. But you cross a certain line when you come for scripture and read yourself into it.
Ugh, I hate this. Like, oh, I'm mad at you, Christian style. This is one of those situations where it's just like, I don't like any of the parties involved, so I've always taken a let them fight attitude on it, and it's been great so far.
I will not tolerate it. Perhaps it finally dawned on Ben as he was reading that response that the
That's right. The baiter becomes the baited. Yeah, get fucked, chatter.
audience he had spent his entire adult life working to cultivate, the ensemble of reactionary nut jobs he'd been employing for years, wasn't all that fond of Jews, actually. Whoops, who could have seen that coming? Reflecting on Candace's time at the Daily Wire years later, Ben told The New Yorker that when they initially brought her on in 2021, they saw her as a fairly mainstream conservative who said inflammatory things. If you recall, some of those inflammatory things included, defending Hitler 2 years before Ben hired her. But then again, Ben said he wouldn't kill baby Hitler, so.
No pro-life person on earth would kill baby Hitler.
Ben says here that he liked most of the inflammatory things she said, but other stuff, not so much. He doesn't really get into specific.
Ben is 2 for 2. He did this with Kanye as well. He did this with Candace and with Kanye, and both of them turned maximum anti-Semitic in the process. 2 for 2 for Ben. Awesome.
But he does maintain that by 2023, she was spouting anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, which, by the way, she most certainly was and still is. I mean, come on, she held up a copy of the Talmudic Jew.
Also, she was before she got hired at the Daily Wire. It was only when she became anti-Israel on top of her anti-Semitism, that's when Ben got mad. Never forget that. Like, there was no question on whether or not Candace Owens was anti-Semitic when she was hired by the Daily Wire. Everybody knew it, okay? Everybody knew it already. The only reason why she was fired from the Daily Wire is because she became anti-Israel.
By German theologian August Rohling, a long discredited and blatantly anti-Semitic work that was literally used by the Nazis as justification to eradicate over 6 million Jews during the Holocaust. She had been referencing the anti-Semitic notion of blood libel all throughout 2024, had platformed Kanye West when he said that Jewish people control the media, erroneously claimed that Jews were responsible for the enslavement of Africans during the slave trade, and was at one point praised by Nick Fuentes for, in his words,
Candace Owens has just been on a tear lately. She has been in a full-fledged war against the Jews.
It's really funny because she also cooked Nick Fuentes' chances, stole a bunch of Nick Fuentes' audience because his audience was looking for maximum anti-Semitism, which she was delivering at a time when he could not. Charlie Kirk assassination. Never forget, Candace Owens, for all of her faults and failures, straight up almost single-handedly destroyed the narrative that transgender Antifa killed Charlie Kirk. She came in hot and was like, it was Israel. And everyone was like, that makes so much sense. Why are you guys... Stop spamming this shit, please. She did that shit. And that's why I'm spiritually a clandinista no matter what. A clandestine operator.
I understand this can be a difficult conversation.
Is Candace pro Epstein like Nick? No, she's not pro Jeffrey Epstein like Nick Fuentes is. She's pro Harvey Weinstein, which is somehow just as weird. I don't know, man. These guys are such fucking freaks. I don't even know what they're doing half the time. Felix and I have spent tireless hours trying to figure out what the fucking Harvey Weinstein situation was even. Like, that was such a weird one. Because at least with Nick Fuentes, like, yeah, he's edgy boy. He's just trying to be edgy. I don't know. That's why he's like pro Epstein, because he has to say like increasingly unhinged shit. But with Candace Owens, like, she didn't just take a pro Harvey Epstein stance. She also went and visited Harvey Epstein in prison and was like trying to declare his innocence. Yeah, I saw this. How it feels to click on Ben Shapiro's YouTube channel and see that he's still uploading dozens of reacting to woke TikTok videos every week. He may be old, but he still loves to dig a hole on the beach. Crushing it. 36K. Finally, good news from TikTok. 46K. What's his problem? He's not a fan. Is Coca-Cola the fountain of youth? Did I say Harvey Epstein? I meant Harvey Weinstein. Sorry. Yeah, look. It's a banger. Harvey Weinstein has been incarcerated since 2020. Candace Owens did that shit on May 20th, 2025. Like, that was recent, bro.
You know, looking back at it. And I want to thank you, Candace, for giving me the opportunity to...
Like, how are you anti-Israel? And then you're trying to fucking clear the image of Harvey Weinstein, who famously used a Israeli PSYOP service to harass his victims and the journalists that were fucking covering his story and uncovering his sexual misconduct. Like, literally, Black Cube is the service that he used. You might know the name of the service, Black Cube. Former Mossad agents made it. It's an intelligence agent. It's a private security company. Black Cube was recently in the news a couple months ago because it turns out they were trying to intervene in elections in France and also the mayor election in New York. That's the company Harvey Weinstein used. And Candace is out here being like, oh, I hate the Jews. I hate Israel. And then she's like, also at the same time, Harvey Weinstein is innocent. The fuck? But yes, Ben's channel is dead. And it's awesome. Go check out Ben's YouTube now. He gets like 10K views. Yeah, it's fucking dope. Episode 1, Diplomat, Thomas Jefferson. Episode 2, The Pessimist, John Adams. America's too important to hand over to idiots. Democrats are abandoning moderate leaders for extremists, 15K. The socialist sweep continues, 21K. Americans don't like open borders. Here's why. I cannot begin to tell you how fucking washed this man is. They want to cancel Jonathan Majors again. 19K views. Democrat meltdown over SCOTUS ruling. Democrats just declared Hasan Piker just declared America communist. 23K views. He can't even crack 23. He can't even crack 100K views on a video slandering me. That's how fucking washed he is, bro. Like, think about that. More Pegaslop is doing 10x his viewership, cutting the same video every day. A 45-minute rant being like, oh, this guy Hasan, he is such a loser. He is such a hypocrite. Oh, more Pegaslop is teabagging him, bro. It's crazy. Yeah, Trump wins SCOTUS, says send them home, 407K views. Now, the disparity here could probably be explained by the fact that they're probably bumping some of them with ads. They're probably buying a shit ton of ads to reboost the channel. And it's not working. That's why some of his videos get 400,000 views and most of his videos get 30,000. It's crazy. These clips of Democrats don't want going viral. Yep, don't worry. It's not going to go viral anytime soon on your channel, buddy.
To have when even the mildest criticism of Israel gets misconstrued as anti-Semitic. But make no mistake.
Please do the Matt Maroney, Trump's biggest donor. This bridge behind me is by Matt Maroney, Trump's biggest donor. That's the Ambassador Bridge, paid for by Matt Maroney. What gives? What gives? Trump's biggest donor. Oh, sorry. It's not Matt Maroney. It's Matty Maroon. What gives?
Candace Owens is a raging anti-Semite and was one before Ben Shapiro hired her. He had to have known how hateful she was, and yet he continued to employ her for years until just a few months after October 7th. And while Candace may have a lot to say about the genocidal fascist state of Israel today, correctly criticizing Benjamin Netanyahu for killing children and condemning the Holocaust being perpetuated in Gaza, Candace has historically never been one to champion the rights of Arabs or Muslims, considering she was specifically mentioned in the Christchurch mosque shooters manifesto in 2019, where he wrote that the person that has influenced me above all was Candace Owens. Each time she spoke, I was stunned by her insights, and her own views helped push me further and further into the belief of
another case where like right-wingers get away with everything. Can you imagine if any fucking shooters manifesto mentioned me this clearly? Oh my God, every liberals would be like, we have to kill this guy. They would be like, free the shooter, kill Hasan instead. You know what I mean? And so would the Republicans, of course. I'd be in fucking jail.
Violence over meekness. And yet, Ben Shapiro hired her anyway. The idea that she was just gonna play along and never turn against his identity as a Jewish man is a silly one that Ben should have anticipated long before spending so many years building her up. He created this monster, and now she's gonna swallow him whole. Candace spent the next 2 years steadily building up an audience, daring to go where the Daily Wire never could by actually criticizing Israel. In the case of Candace, it was coming from an anti-Semitic place, but it nonetheless resonated with those who saw the most heinous atrocities imaginable being carried out in the name of a flag bearing the Star of David. Being anti-Semitic and being anti-Zionist are two very different things. One can rightfully call out Israel's war crimes while also recognizing the reality that Jewish people are not a monolith and are not collectively to blame for the crimes of a nation state. But Candace seeks to conflate these things, and frankly, so does Ben Shapiro. In their world, you cannot denounce Israel without also denouncing Jews as a whole, and that's precisely where their rift stems from. As Israel's genocide in Gaza moved forward with the complete support of the United States, more and more regular Americans were becoming dispossessed with what they were witnessing. They turned to the internet, saw that Ben Shapiro was defending Israel's crimes, and compared that to what they saw coming out of Candace Owens, a person who seemed more than willing to call out the various and obvious crimes against humanity. Basically, she was beginning to steadily siphon off the Daily Wire's viewers. Media Matters reports that from January 2025 to March 2026, Candace was able to add 10 million new subscribers across all platforms, generating 81 million TikTok likes and 805 million views on YouTube. Her follower and subscriber count had ballooned to 24 million across all of her accounts, a staggering 80% increase since the beginning of 2025. She really was, for all intents and purposes, free from the Daily Wire's grasp, meaning there was nothing stopping her from getting crazier than ever before, especially in the days, weeks, and months following the fateful day of September 10th, 2025.
Chaos and horror on a college campus. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk gunned down in front of a crowd at Utah Valley University.
With the assassination of Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah, Candace Owens coped with the loss of her friend by ramping up her trademark conspiracy theories to a whole new level. It's true that the investigation surrounding Charlie's death was suspicious. I'm sure you all remember those oddly written text messages the gunman was said to have typed out in the immediate aftermath of the shooting. Candace not only got to work pointing out the various inconsistencies in what the authorities were telling the public, but she was also quick to conjure up some theories of her own, even if they didn't make the most sense. First, she said that Israel had killed him, since he was supposedly coming around on his views on the country. His allies dispute that he was. She went on to assign blame to the French government, since she was, after all, in the midst of battling the Macrons in court after slandering the First Lady of France as transgender, even going so far as to say that Tyler Robinson wasn't even the one to pull the trigger, and that the actual killer had escaped through a trap door in the floor in front of where Charlie was sitting. Later on, she said Charlie Kirk was coming to her in her dreams.
Had a vivid dream this weekend, and Charlie came to me and he told me that he was betrayed.
And that he was a time traveler who went to
Unironically, this was one of the most dangerous moments of Trump too, and Candace Owens saved everyone from it. Lamau, I think she played a major role, but I think it was also because they were so heavy-handed. They were so heavy-handed in like martyring Charlie Kirk that people got annoyed. And then Erica Kirk was so sociopathic in her reaction that people were like, oh, dude, nobody cares about this. What the fuck? Your wife doesn't care about this shit? Why am I supposed to care about it? I didn't even like the guy. And I think that's what it is. It was a combination of all of those events. There were so many. I heard he wasn't shot. There was a tiny explosive device in his lapel mic. And Israel is known for tiny bomb, like the pager bombs. Dude, come on. Like, I'm willing to entertain a conspiracy theory if there's like a different shooter and it's not Tyler Robinson or whatever, but like that is fucking insane. That's funny.
In school, I mean, she was just kind of saying whatever at a certain point. Of course, she had previously speculated that Charlie could have been taken out by elements within the US military and even TPUSA itself, targeting in particular Charlie's widow, Erica. In February
Yeah. I think a lot of right-wingers are confused about all the Charlie Kirk jokes. Sure, some people just mocking his death, but stuff like this, the Kirkified memes, that's making fun of you. It's mocking the ridiculous reaction from the right, calling for civil war, making this dorky podcaster a martyr, plastering his face everywhere, and yes, making that stupid We Are Charlie Kirk AI song. Compare this to Henry Kissinger dying. There were some jokes, but they came and went. The staying power of the Kirk jokes is because the right decided he was the next messiah that belonged on the quarter because he debated it and often lost to college students. The soy pill is like unacceptable to me because he's smart enough to know better. He's smart enough to know better, so his existence annoys me unlike any other fucking dumbass liberal on this platform because he's right here. And every now and then, when he's right, he just cooks, okay? He's correct here. But for some stupid fucking reason, he is so brain poisoned with the Hasan derangement syndrome that he literally will be like, I still hate you because you're pro-authoritarianism, you're illiberal, you're anti-liberalism, like you're blah, 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 all this shit. It's like, dude, just give it up, man. Just give it up. Just let it go. Gucci bag, friend. Gucci bag. Let it go. Just let it fucking go. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? You're still fucking you're still carrying the liberalism torch in the big 226? Check logs. Extremely important. Ban me if not. Let's see. It's a ban coming. I can tell. I would sell my soul for Candace. I can change her. God, Candace is hot. I would change her. Take an hour off, dude. You're in horny jail for an hour. Bro said he would support Epstein over you in a hypothetical race. Wait, no, he did that too? I thought that was Hutch. Yeah, you guys are confusing him with another Destiny orbiter. The soy pill doesn't hate you like Hutch does. He and Pissock would have a normal convo with you. No, he is like tweeted. He has tweeted like recently something in the replies. I just don't understand it. To me, it comes across as like insane. You know what I mean? I forget where it was, but he recently, like maybe a week ago or something, he's a huge deorbiter. Fuck those guys. Don't ever give him oxygen, please. Yeah, I think he's still very much. I can't tell if he's like a skeptic now. Some of these guys are not as insane, right? Like some of these, I think Hutch is as insane. Like when you say you'd rather vote for Jeffrey Epstein instead of me for president, or if you think that I'm like worse than Donald Trump, you're an insane person. I don't think this guy is one of those people. Oh, here it is. This is what it was. These guys fucking hate me and call me a liberal, then subscribe to actual liberals because I was making fun of Commie Turk. And he said, I'm a big tent guy. I just exclude social democrats. Fucking idiot. You're a big fucking idiot, Commie Turk. Anyway, maybe that's why everyone's calling me a secret commie, because I hate you too. Do you ever explain why? Serious, because I can't understand why someone with largely sensible content wouldn't hold less contempt for someone with also largely sensible content. He used his platform to spread voter apathy, and when faced with the most obvious trolley problem in the world, threw up his hands and said, no, I won't use my millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of fans to try and stop Trump from winning. Give it up. Give it up. Brother, give up the fucking Kamala dead-ender shit, please. Please. It's the dumbest analysis anyone can ever engage in, okay? Like Taylor Swift couldn't get Kamala Harris to win. What the fuck are you talking about? If you still think I'm the one causing voter apathy, you're a fucking baboon, okay? Beyonce couldn't generate enough excitement for Kamala Harris. Why the fuck do you think I'm capable of doing that? And better yet, how have you not comprehended that at the end of the day, what matters are the policies? You can't outflank the fucking policies, okay? It was Kamala Harris that created voter apathy. He has signaled this year that he would not promote Gavin Newsom over J.D. Vance in 2020. I actually commend him for promoting these DSA candidates and putting his time and money where his mouth is, but it's ridiculous he wouldn't do the same to stop a fascist from winning. Oh my God. People like him are smart enough to know the true power they have, regardless of the party's shortcomings. This is what I mean. No, you know what this is? I think it's narcissism. Okay, I think it's narcissism because he is a content creator. So in his mind, he thinks he has like this tremendous power. Okay, it's got to be that. I don't think that way. Okay, I guess you could say I'm narcissistic on other shit. I never said he changed the outcome. I said I hate that he has enormous resources and didn't use them. One vote doesn't matter. Why should anyone vote? Why advocate for good things if you won't change anyone else? You could easily say the same thing about him pushing for DSA policies that won't pass. He has signaled this year that he won't, that we would not promote Gavin Newsom. Oh my God. No, you're awkward as fuck in person. I know I've been within 6 feet of you. What? I think you got your power dead on, level of power dead on. Your laser focused on close Senate and congressional primaries is huge. Yeah, exactly. Soy Pill is just kind of a moron who could have been on the right side of this if he wasn't brain broken by whatever experiences ruined his ability to understand average/independent voters. He thinks he's so far left of the average voter, but that's only because he's convinced centrism is the norm because of the dumb fuck bubbles he operates in. Yeah, I think these guys have tunnel vision. I think these guys have like tunneled themselves into thinking that like Neera Tanden actually is dead on. You know what I mean? That mentality is fucking dead on. Where these guys sincerely sit around and circle jerk thinking the average voter, the median voter is actually always looking for moderate policies on healthcare and things like that. It's like, you're a fucking idiot if you think that. I'm sorry. It's also remarkable how little they know, but that's besides the point.
She announced a multi-part investigative series.
You also have tunnel vision regarding China. Fuck out of here.
Series titled Bride of Charlie that generated about 23 million views on its own and was described by The Hollywood Reporter as Candace delving into Erica's family background and advancing insinuations about her role in his death that were widely condemned across the conservative spectrum, with Ben Shapiro being among the loudest critics.
Candace Owens is an evil, twisted human being. Because Candace Owens is either going through the throes of mental illness.
How old is Soy Pill? That's the last question I have. I'm willing to bet he must not be old enough to remember 2016 or wasn't like as active politically in 2016. Because that's what it is. These guys don't realize that they're reheating the same fucking DNC nachos from 2016 when they say dumb fucking bullshit like that. We're like, Hillary Rodham Clinton would have won if you supported her hard enough. Like that's what it is. Yeah, if this is your second election cycle where you've been sentient, you saw 2020 and then 2024, then you don't realize that you're literally doing the same thing. Neera Tanden and I have been duking it out since 2016, okay? We've been there. We've motherfucking been there. We've been there, done that. These are things that the things I'm hearing about Abdullah Syed, about Graham Plattner, about all these candidates, about us in this movement, the DSA, these aren't new lines of attack. These are the oldest lines of attack. We've eaten that fucking dog shit and that poison over and over again. Oh my God, Warren, you called Warren a snake. What is this? Please look at the picture. He's in the propeller hat. Oh my God. So they were pro-Shoycott? I don't get it.
Or because she is a sick human being, or both, she has decided that she is going to turn her fire on the widow.
By now, the gloves were officially off, and a conservative civil war was ravaging the movement from the inside. A war that Ben Shapiro was not about to win. Ben could get mad, could criticize Candace for being a disgusting human being, and he could be entirely right on that front, but what did it matter if Candace was pulling millions of views per stream? At the same time that Ben was bringing in 400 to 600k viewers per live show, Candace was cracking close to 3 million on some of her streams, sometimes even more than that. 9 million views talking about Israel's supposed involvement in Charlie's death. I mean, come on. Ben's numbers weren't bad on their own, but compared to Candace, it was clear which of the two enjoyed more influence within the conservative ecosystem, coasting off new momentum that still hasn't slowed much. Candace was just crowned the fastest growing right-wing podcast for the second quarter in a row, as reported in April of this year by The Writing, whose president commented that Candace Owens' skyrocketing popularity defies an easy explanation. You'd think that her baseless attacks on people like Erica Kirk, the widow of slain right-wing activist Charlie Kirk, would discuss vast segments of the MAGA universe. Apparently not, because each month the podcast attracts thousands of new subscribers. She's thriving in a world where the truth is often irrelevant and outrage.
Does Haas know he was on the latest PSYOP anime video? No, because I don't watch dumb shit like that.
Trump's logic. On December 18th, 2025, Ben Shapiro took the stage at Turning Point USA's America Fest to put the reactionary grifters and frauds on blast. He attempted to laugh.
And Candace has now been in Russia more and more, and Russia media doing propaganda about Ukraine and the war now as well. Yeah, how about Russia fucking focus on quote unquote winning this war instead of fucking trying to get Candace Owens to do pro-Russia propaganda, okay? If they're so invested in having this come to a reasonable conclusion for themselves that's positive, and things are not as 100% as they seem. Anyway, that's another thing that these guys always fucking get so annoying about. PV has intentionally made a push to try to ride off the coattails of more organized popular orgs like people like you and DSA, but they couldn't help their lived up nature by trying to sink Dari and Claire's campaigns. But since they've never had actual emotion, it didn't do shit. Yeah, that was very disappointing. In the fucking last week when they were like, you need to fucking make your position on Russia, Ukraine be clear, when like these demonic DNC entities were looking at any avenue of attack.
Shout at those he claimed had replaced truth with opportunism.
Is this guy ever
and he
returning?
didn't shy away from naming names.
Erica Kirk and TPUSA never should have been put in the position to have to defend themselves against such specious and evil attacks, particularly in a time of mourning. And the people who refuse to condemn Candace's truly vicious attacks, and some of them are speaking here, are guilty of cowardice. The fact that they have said nothing while Candace has been vomiting all sorts of hideous and conspiratorial nonsense into the public square for years.
TV doesn't suck. They clarified it on Reddit. Your chat is just packed with reactionaries. Dude, I don't know about my chat. That was my assessment. I'm telling you what my position is. Like, I think they've done good work overall. They've promoted a lot of Justice Democrat candidates, a lot of DSA candidates. But I've always said this. Disagreements that are marginal cannot turn into impediments. If you are going to present yourself as an impediment to a candidate like Claire or Daria Lisa winning in any way, shape, or form, even if it doesn't work, I'm still going to pull out of that immediately. Like, it would be akin to me leaning into some of the fucking ultras out there that are like, why would you ever collaborate with fucking Bernie Sanders? Bernie Sanders is a liberal Zionist. It's like, because I'm not a fucking psycho. Because he is collaborating with me, not vice versa. He doesn't mind highlighting and promoting candidates that are to his left that are demanding an arms embargo on Israel. This is what it was. Yeah, I remember this. This was like, anyway, it's fine. I hope they don't do something like this again, but it was like totally ridiculous. Especially when the alternative is an AIPAC stooge. What are you, fucking nuts? You were like, oh, her position on Ukraine is ambiguous. Yeah, same on you with Tallarico. Exactly. Do you see me fucking complaining about Tallarico? I'm not fucking running around being like, he sucks, he sucks, he sucks. Because he's running in Texas. Who gives a shit, you know?
It's just as cowardly.
The speech that he posted to his own YouTube channel, mind you, got almost 10,000 dislikes, in a remarkable display of how far right the needle had moved by the time Ben had made these remarks. And sure, he may be morally in the right for calling out Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson, but what good do morals do when you've spent your entire career pandering to an audience that ignores morality and spits in the face of sensibility? The very administration that Ben had been defending for so many years is the exact antithesis of morality and goodness, when he could no longer deliver the brand of craziness that the base craved, a base that he had spent his entire career.
I don't understand why it's bad for PV to have a position on Ukraine. It's not bad for PV to have whatever position they have on Ukraine. It's horrible for a group that has already endorsed a candidate to turn around 1 week out from a fucking major election to be like, we're rescinding our support, okay? If you can understand why that would be rat fuck behavior for numerous other people and numerous other organizations, you can understand how that could be seen as rat fucking for Daria Lisa and Claire Valdez's race. And not only that, but also their perspective on it was that Claire and Daria's opinion on Ukraine was too vague for their liking. Like, it wasn't even, they didn't even land on anything. That was just because they had in the past tweeted about the need for diplomacy. Remember the fucking, wasn't it the Congressional Progressive Caucus that also wanted to force Biden to push for diplomacy at some point with Ukraine? And then they clamped that down, or was it a ceasefire? Like, that's crazy. PV is also floating the idea of requiring a pro-Taiwan position. Oh my God, dude. Ugh, this is what I mean. It's like, it's unbelievable. Like, that's an unbelievable demand to make. What do you mean pro-Taiwan? You want fucking nuclear first strike option on China? Like, who? Again, give it up. Give it up. Up next, Taiwan tracker. Anyway, yeah.
Feeding into, it was only natural for him to be overtaken and outshined by someone who was willing to say the outrageous thing. What's remarkable is that Ben had always been proud of the fact that he was never one to mince words. He had long portrayed himself as the no-nonsense guy who would never shy away from reality and always tell it like it is.
If they do that, they will unironically kill their own org, by the way. Like, because no candidate is ever going to take them seriously if they're like, we are demanding a defend Taiwan position. Like, if that's something that they're track Taiwan. You give up on Taiwan just like you give up on Ukraine. Sad. I haven't given up on Ukraine. What are you talking about? Also, I need you to understand something, okay? The entire Western world, including the United States of America, is fully in support of Ukraine. Making that into a litmus test because you don't think that a candidate's position is not sufficiently pro-Ukraine is insane. Can you not comprehend why that would be different than Israel, considering that 90% of Congress is pro-Israel unconditionally, whereas 90% of Democratic voters are against Israel? Do you not understand that one is an adequate litmus test? The other one is just like, how fucking pro-America can you get? Do you not get that? The Taiwan one is even more insane than that. Because now you're like demanding a further right, more militant position than like what most American politicians are even comfortable with.
That out now, or you'll go home in an ambulance.
What about right now, when a significant chunk of the base is more interested in hearing unsubstantiated conspiracy theories? What do you expect to happen when you continue to defend Israel at a time when so many conservatives, especially younger conservatives, rightfully hate Netanyahu? Or what about when you defend an illegal and offensive war with Iran that Israel very much pushed us into? On top of everything else, Ben Shapiro has backed himself into a corner. He was continuing to stand by his support of Israel and Erica Kirk at this TPUSA event, no matter how unpopular it was to do so, at least among the MAGA right that exists primarily online, where the majority of Ben's audience lives. By this point, Ben had lost other allies too, not just Candace and Tucker, but Jeremy Boring's mysterious exit in March 2025 also added fuel to the fire that Ben was tasked with extinguishing. Ben's girl lookalike Brett Cooper had left to start her own channel just a few months before that in December 2024. They then proceeded to replace her with one of the bridesmaids from her own wedding, someone by the name of Reagan Rohrbach. If you haven't heard of her, that's because she really hasn't done that great of a job trying to fill Brett's shoes. Again, the way he had sort of built the company meant that any on-screen personality could use the Daily Wire's resources to accumulate a parasocial audience loyal to them, then walk out the door and make more money on their own without any oversight or guardrails. Candace has done it. Brett Cooper has done it. What's stopping?
Taiwan isn't a country. Why are you ideologically invested in denying Taiwan statehood? Brother, look at the fucking ROC Constitution. The Republic of China is one China, just like PRC is one China. Ironically enough, the Republic of China is actually far greater than what the PRC plus Taiwan looks like, because it includes Mongolia. Like, the Taiwanese situation and the way that people talk about it in the United States of America is very different than what it actually is. Oh, you're talking about CPC complicit in genocide of Rohingyas. Yes, they are. They've both defended the military junta and also simultaneously defended groups against it, depending on the timing or depending on what their interests are. I know. I'm very critical of China's foreign policy. What the fuck are you talking about? This is one of them. But if you're like advocacy revolves around like I don't know, militarily defending Taiwan when no such invasion has taken place, it's ridiculous. Especially when the American government's official position is that Taiwan is a part of China, is the official American government position. We just deploy what we call strategic ambiguity. Every single president since Richard Nixon has said that.
Someone like Matt Walsh or Michael Knowles from forging their own path too. In the age of independent media, there's just no reason for someone, even up-and-coming names, to tie themselves to a bloated institution like the Daily Wire anymore. And the legacy media was picking up on that fact. The first half of 2026 has seen a number of articles written about the collapse of the Daily Wire, with coverage ranging from the Washington Post to New York Magazine to Puck, the latter reporting that Ben's hemorrhaging viewing audience represented the steepest decline of any major political channel in 2026. Ben Shapiro's embarrassing fall from being the leading voice for
Love you, don't really know your full opinion, but I'm in Taiwan. Very people here would see themselves as part of China and be an offensive thing to say. I know. The Taiwanese position on this overwhelmingly, as I'm sure you know if you're in Taiwan, is don't rock the boat. Status quo. What groups that would demand American military defense of Taiwan would actually be disrupting the status quo. It would be damaging to the status quo. I'm in favor of the status quo.
Online conservatism has been heavily publicized. The bulk of these pieces cite much of what we've already touched on in this video. Mass layoffs, which have
Anyway, we don't even have to talk about it. It doesn't matter.
Count.
The Iran war destroyed the whatever American ambition remained of utilizing Taiwan against China in any way, shape, or form. It's over. It's done. You might as well, grow comfortable with that reality and hope for peace above all else. Any kind of demand to the right of that is silly. No American politician will ever take you seriously. That's it. America already blew its fucking load, destroyed its peer and near peer adversary standoff munitions that they literally designed so that they could go and fucking quote unquote militarily defend Taiwan in a hypothetical scenario where China would militarily invade Taiwan, which there's no evidence that they would do that. We had to fucking panic ship THAAD batteries out of South Korea. Who's going to be on board with losing? Who's going to be on board with turning Taiwan into Ukraine and then also losing?
The departure of key talent, a shifting of the conservative ecosystem as a whole, and of course, the fact that the Daily Wire was burning through money, partly on account of all their massively ambitious projects, not just the movies and shows we covered, but also one of their more recent projects, the Pendragon Cycle, a blatant ripoff of Game of Thrones that, to the Daily Wire's credit, does look pretty stylish and sleek, but that's only because it cost about $3 million an episode to make. You guys couldn't just put that money into hiring younger, more culturally aware podcasters? What the fuck are these priorities, dude? Well, Ben told Dylan Byers in May that he had anticipated 2026 to be the best advertising year in the history of the Daily Wire. Again, I don't know how great of a strategy it is to run your entire show as a YouTube pre-roll advertisement so that people can post about it and make fun of you on Twitter. Is that
Yeah, that's also literally why some of his videos get like 600,000 views.
Really sustainable, Ben? What about trying to do this whole painful how do you do, fellow kids routine where you sit down and try to not let your age show while you play Fortnite?
Okay, so now this is the warm-up. You got 52 seconds. So you can see you walk around, move around, back up a little bit.
I'm literally right here.
Now back up just a tiny bit. There you go.
There you go.
Wait, no, forward a little more. A little more, back up.
You're the politics guy, Ben. Just do politics. Who cares about this shit? Tucker Carlson, another ardent foe of Ben Shapiro, summarized Ben's latest predicament in a recent appearance on Megyn Kelly's show, categorizing the likes of Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin as being
Ben is more of a gamer than me.
On the outer fringe of the outer fringe. Nobody watches this stuff. There's no audience for this. There is no constituency for it. These are not major figures in American media. They're tiny. I mean, your average porn video has 1,000 more views than any of these people get, so they're a joke, which must be a difficult pill for Ben to swallow. Ben Shapiro has always wanted to be taken seriously as a media figure, ever since his days of working for Andrew Breitbart, who hammered into his proteges that politics was downstream of culture. If you could just influence the culture, you could have influence over politics. Though as of now, Ben Shapiro appears to be influencing neither. And while he may be getting lapped by his former employees, make no mistake, Ben is still very much a player and he's not about to go quietly. And on May 15th, Ben took to Twitter to post his most viewed video in a long time, annoyingly captioned, "All the haters can kiss my ass."
I'm betting there are a lot more rational people in this country than conspiracy-mongering nutjobs.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where Ben Shapiro finds himself in mid-2026, completely alienated by a swath of his former allies, holding on to a decaying business that's leaking money by the day, an audience that constantly demands more blood than Ben can give them. He's tied himself to a sinking ship, and he appears to be willing to go down with it rather than break for a lifeboat.
I will tell you exactly how it works. On the left, in independent media, the more resilient you are with your worldview, the more people trust you. And if you're lucky enough, and if you push through, and if you're successful enough in like getting people to understand your worldview, maybe one day you can have a large enough audience and your audience will continue growing. On the right, it's the opposite. If you have any real moral conviction, even if it's an immoral perspective, on the right, if you maintain that position as the audience is moving, you're fucked. Tomi Lahren was an up-and-comer. She was everywhere on the Republican side. And then one day she made the mistake of speaking out against abortion bans. She said, I don't think that we should be, restricting women's access to abortions. That was it. She came out as pro-abortion and that was it. Her career was fucking over from that point on. It took her like basically 6 years to recover from that moment. She got clobbered for it. They backpocketed her on Fox News and it took her like literally 6 years to come back to the front office. Same with Ben. Ben cares about Israel. And for the longest time, it didn't matter because for the longest time, the Republican Party was openly pro-Israel. The independent side was pro-Israel. They didn't care about it too much. They didn't know about it too much. We now live in a very different media environment. So Ben can't stop being pro-Israel because he actually cares about it. Everything else he can, cast aside. But this is the one thing he cares about. He cares about anti-Semitism growing to a certain degree. Obviously, it's fine if they're pro-Israel, even if they're anti-Semitic. And he cares about defending Israel. So his audience was like, fuck you.
The world of online conservatism, or really the world at large, has mostly passed him by, as evident by the numerous replies that read, if it wasn't for Candace Owens trending, I never would have seen this hilarious video of you. Israeli spies can kiss my ass. You're telling most of America to kiss your ass. A very Jewish message, says Dan Bilzerian, a name I haven't heard in a very long time. This reply alone got 29,000 likes, signaling clearly that perhaps Ben's entire mission was futile from the start. He spent his career attacking almost all minority groups, incorrectly assuming that his following of racists and bigots would simply overlook the one group Ben never criticized.
I'm betting that there are way more people in America who believe in truth and virtue and freedom than people who revel in grievance and demoralization and stupidity.
You're talking to racists and bigots, Ben. You think they aren't going to come for you and your people too? By going hard in the direction of anti-Semitism and Hitler apologia, Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes are, in a weird, depraved way, actually presenting a more consistent worldview than Ben Shapiro is. Now, it's a worldview that sucks and is incredibly harmful, but it's one that doesn't exempt a whole group of people the way Ben's does. A classic example of, well, I didn't think the leopards would eat my face. They were always gonna eat your face, Ben. No matter how you feel about it, that is the fact of the matter, which I'm afraid leads us to an uncomfortable truth, one that can be summed up in a phrase coined at the height of our subject's influence and popularity that still rings true today more than it ever has. Facts don't care about your feelings.
Thanks for staying up for the president. It's the kind of patriotism I aspire to. Yeah, I'm not going to watch him live.